Live from the pitch pad in New York City. Get ready to unleash your inner entrepreneur with Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the Shark Tank, this is the place to be to discover how to turn your pitch into reality. Fasten your seatbelts, pitch stars, because the spotlight is on you and we are about to make success happen. Get ready for Pitch Live in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Pitch Live. I'm your host, Amy Summers, founder and president of Pitch Publicity and Inisi Vox. I'm also a hardworking entrepreneur who is passionate about helping you reach success in any area of your life. And I know that is possible after decades of experience in perfecting the pitch and enhancing communication skills, which is why I'm here today and joined by Mark Alyn, who is a seasoned talk show host and radio personality with more than 3 decades of experience. Mark has interviewed more than 30,000 people in his career, and he is the host of Late Night Health Radio. Mark is also a talented and entertaining television host, reporter, and anchor. His latest show is a live cooking show called Mark Alyn Cooks that you can watch on YouTube at Mark Alyn Cooks Your Dinner, a show that both me and my dog Winnie have been guests on recently, and we don't even cook. So that'll tell you how entertaining Mark is. I've known Mark my entire career because I started pitching him before I even started Pitch Publicity back in my early career pitching days when we were still faxing producers pitches. And today, Mark still takes our pitches. And I think, Mark, you have probably worked with all of our pitch stars at Pitch Publicity who have pitched you, our clients, to be on your show. So welcome, Mark.
Hi, thanks, Amy. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on the hot seat. It's a little uncomfortable for me because I'm usually on the.
I know. I'm actually glad to have you in the hot seat because a lot of times you're interviewing me. So this is really fun for me. There's so many questions I wanted to ask you and never had the chance. So are you ready to dive right in?
Absolutely. And I miss Winnie. I guess she's at doggy daycare.
Yes, she is. She is not so good on the Zoom, as you know. If you want to go watch our episode on Mark Alyn Cooks, and you will see why Winnie's a little hard to manage.
Got it.
On a Zoom. But let's talk about you. I know this is difficult, but I want to go back in time to the very beginning of your career because I have a lot of young professionals and college students that listen to this and watch this show, and I want to know. Did you begin working in media? What was your degree in, and what motivated you to get a start in broadcast journalism?
Well, I'd always wanted to be a doctor, and then I got slapped upside the head in high school with trigonometry, chemistry, physics, and all that math stuff, which, by the way, I use a lot of that in video editing now, all the math, but that's another story. And I had to make a decision. And I was taking a speech class. And the George Woods, if you're out there, thank you. He was my speech teacher in high school in the San Fernando Valley. And he told me how to go into communications. He didn't know where or what. I started my career at Northern Arizona University. In Flagstaff. I was 18. I didn't last long. I was only there a semester, but we had to produce a show every week, even as freshmen. And so they tried me on camera. They tried me on audio. They tried me on all the technical positions. And finally, the professor said, "Sit in the chair. Our host isn't here. Hasn't showed up." And I interviewed the football coach. And he said, "All right, you're going to get an A in the class if you're in that seat every week for the rest of the semester." And
wow. So at age 18, you started hosting. That's how you've been able to do 30,000 interviews by now.
Yeah, it's, and from all walks of life. I mean, I do a lot, as you know, in the whole holistic health field, alternative health field. But I've done financial. I've done the cooking, travel. I've been a news anchor. It's never ending. And somebody just asked me if I was going to retire because I have gray hair. And why? Why would I want to do that? I love what I do. I just want to do more.
So I was speaking of your college years, I was doing a little digging on your LinkedIn profile, and I noticed that back in your college days, you were actively managing a campus radio station at California State University, which later became one of the first NPR affiliates in the LA area. What were you doing to market and promote the NPR stations at that time? And what pitching skills were you honing early on during that time?
Well, first of all, when I joined the staff of the station, it had already been an NPR affiliate. I joined fairly early, about 2 years after the station became an NPR affiliate. And as you know, I'm like a bull in a china shop, and I jump in with both feet and told my boss, the general manager, I said, Bob, we got to do something with all the other stations in the marketplace. This is brand new. So we started having meetings, and they somehow elected me to coordinate some promotion. And I wrote some press releases, which, by the way, at first, the school, the Cal State Northridge PR department called me and said, you can't do this. I said, why not? It's being picked up. It's accurate. And they said, you're right. Do what you want. That was one. And two, I had a budget, and we bought ads in the LA Times primarily to promote the stations.
Why did they tell you you couldn't write a press release? Because it wasn't your
Well,
job, or because you didn't know how to write a press release?
it was because the school officially was supposed to write the press release, but we knew the manager and myself knew that if I wrote a press release and needed it to go out today or tomorrow, that it would take 2 weeks to get approved. So we just did it.
MSH, make shit happen. That's what we always say.
That's it. That's it. And ask for forgiveness. Just right.
Right. Later.
Later. Exactly.
So one thing I didn't see on your LinkedIn, and you mentioned it briefly, was your stint in PR. So I would like to know about that. So you started out in broadcast journalism. If you're watching on YouTube, Mark just fainted.
Yeah, we did that. I mentioned that to you, I think, when I was at your place in New York with Carol, and over the holidays, we had a great time with you and Winnie. In fact, I've got this little thing that you gave me, a photo thing, and I see all my family, but the one non-family is you, me, and Winnie.
Well, I'll have to send it to your Mark's talking about a photo frame I gave him that's digital. And if you just give me the code, I'll send you all the Amy and Winnie pictures you want to mix in with family. And
I'm still figuring it out. I'll let you know the code. Anyway, what happened was that I'd been a talk show host in Memphis and was fired. And I came home and I needed work. And I ended up working for 1, 2, 3, 4 PR firms.
Oh, wow.
I know. The first one was we worked in this woman's kind of, I don't know, conference room in her home. And there were 4 of us. I was the senior publicist. I directed the other people. Mm-hmm. And she would come to me and say, Mark, I think you've worked hard enough today. You can go home. This was every Friday, would hand me a check and said, go to the bank now. The others may not clear. I got out of that one quick. Next one is a publicist that I'd worked with in being pitched at, and she offered me a job. And I still work with her. I still am in touch with her. Her clients are are featured on Late Night Health or the cooking show. Um, and I also do some production work for her, video production work. And then there was a third one. And then the fourth one, I actually ended up running 4 or 5 account execs plus the video production. I did not like doing PR. I just didn't.
Well, tell me what the difference is, because I will tell you, I tend to get resumes from journalists, especially broadcast journalists, around the age of 30 something, when they are having families and have discovered that the hours are terrible in newsrooms, and also discovering that PR people sometimes make more money than they do. I start getting these resumes that they want to come pitch, and their pitch to me is always, look, I'm in media, I know how to pitch, and I will be like your best pitcher. And I always think, well, you don't know what it's like to be on our side of the fence. It's not so easy pitching media. Can you tell me what the difference was when you came over and did PR? What did you not like about pitching from that perspective?
It was, I have to tell you, the pitch is still the same, because journalists have, they've been the catcher. Now they're going out to the mound. It's the best analogy I can think of. I would rather catch, even though it's hard on the knees, than pitch. I just would. I would pitch a story to a radio station or a TV station, knowing that it was a good pitch, knowing that it was newsworthy. And we're talking about PR, public relations, and they would turn it down. And I couldn't figure out why they didn't see the news value. And then two, the person who I was pitching may not have had a lot of experience. In one station, she was the daughter of the station's owner, and did a public affairs show on the weekends. And I knew this was perfect for her. I knew it, but she turned it down. No reason why. And I would feel depressed after that.
Yeah, you have to develop a lot of tough skin. I always tell people, when you're in that, on the pitching mound, as you put it, as the pitcher, I mean, because they don't always see it, and to overcome objections can be really difficult too. But so, I find myself educating a lot when I'm pitching. But to get that rejection, it can be really tough. Whereas on the media side, you're receiving a lot of pitches, and you're kind of in the driver's seat on what you want to do. What Tell us a little bit, because we're always curious. What do you see when a pitch comes to you? What is just like a no-go for you when someone's pitching you? What are some things that you should never do when you're pitching journalists?
When you're pitching a journalist, make it news. They're a journalist, okay? When I see a release, and I must get 60, all right, maybe 40 pitches a day, 7 days a week. And it says press release. Well, why should I give somebody free time, okay, to be on my show, when they're asking, it's an advertisement. If it were news, I'd pop at it, okay? And I think that's one. The other is, a lot of times people will pitch themselves, and I hate it. I hate it for a number of reasons. And there's no vetting of the material, which you do for me. You as the publicist, I don't think I've ever turned a guest of yours down. Okay? A client of yours down. I also believe that this is a one-to-one business. And because a lot of journalists here's a secret. It's only between you and me, Amy. Don't share this with anybody.
Just everyone listening.
Okay. Most producers and hosts think of themselves as overworked and underpaid. And your job as a publicist is to make it easy for us. Okay. And that's the important thing. There's going to be a time in any publicist's professional life when they get a stinker of a client. What's a stinker of a client? You can't book them. You just, no matter what approach or angle, you thought it was great. You thought it would be great. And nobody seems to be interested because you took on a client that sells earthworms for fun, and he has a cookbook on earthworm cooking. I might take a look at that because I'm a little bit odd, but most people would turn that down. So you call me up, and that's the other thing. You use this. This is called a telephone, folks. I know it's hard to understand. It does email and Instagram and all kinds of magic things. But
originally we talked on those phones.
Yes. And that's what I want.
Does that make a difference? Do you like it when people call you?
Yes.
Why is that? Why do you like hearing pitches verbally?
You and I have known each other for almost 30 years, 25 years, something like that. We're friends. I've been to your house. You haven't been to my house yet, but we'll work on that. And that's the thing. With a PR person and a media person, you're a team. You have to be a team. And if it's just through emails and texting, it doesn't work for me.
You can't develop a relationship. I think you bring up a good point, Mark, because there's a thing called media relations that we talk about a lot in PR, and having good media relations. And it's really just basically, what is your relationship with the media? And what it means to me is that to have good media relations is to do one of the things that you said, which is to basically deliver everything on the silver platter as much as possible, because most journalists are overworked and underpaid, and maybe they don't have that time and resources to go pull all the images for the story or the background information. So that's really our job. But it's also to build relationships. And I think you'd be very hard pressed to build a relationship with somebody if you've never talked to them.
No, I think it would be impossible. And I think that's, while I love the internet and I love email and I love all the social media, it still doesn't beat hi. It's Amy. I've got this great guest. I want to talk to you about it.
I've always coached people that work for me too, even just leaving a voicemail, just so that they can hear your voice. And even if they don't respond to you by calling back, they are going to dig up that email, because now they know you're a real person. This media person is probably getting tons of emails. You're really going to elevate yourself a little bit by even just leaving a voicemail and letting them know, hi, this is me. I'm a real person. This is what my voice sounds like.
Yes.
Here's where to find my email, right? Would you agree?
Oh, and 100%. And as I said, I get a lot of pitches, and I go through the pitches, and I find one that I like. Okay. So I'll send an email, and they don't have a phone number on it. I just did that before we started this. I don't even remember what the topic was. Yes, I do. Somebody who worked in the government for health. Anyway, I sent them an email and saying, hey, call me. I will be surprised if they do, because out of every 10 that I respond to like that, one person will call me back.
If a media person tells me to call them, you can bet I am calling them immediately.
Yeah,
not waiting.
If I were running a PR firm and I owned one for about a year, part of Mark Alyn Communications. I had somebody working for me. And if somebody got a note, an email from the media, I don't care if it's big media, small media, media, and they didn't call them back, they're out of there.
Yeah.
That's their job.
Yeah. And I think you hit on something really important, and that's responsiveness. You have to be responsive. And members of the media do not have regular office hours like everybody else does. They don't have a 9-to-5 job. They're working really strange hours. So even though it can be difficult, you always have to make it a practice of whenever they get in touch with you to respond, because their work hours are totally different than yours.
Oh, it is. And, I'm here in Southern California. I have a regular guest in Hawaii. Okay. The getting him and me together is arduous at best, because he's 2 hours behind me. When we go to daylight savings time, it'll be 3 hours. Then I have to talk to his PR person who's on the East Coast. And today I messed up. I'm apologizing in person to Amy. I thought I put this down for tomorrow, that we were recording this instead of today, Tuesday.
Mark almost missed his interview today, which made me chuckle a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know, and I did it with somebody else too. So my head wasn't in the game.
Well, I want to go back just to recap, because you made a lot of really important points, but you said the pitch has to be newsworthy. You have to tie it into something that's happening in the news. Don't make it about yourself. In other words, it's not all about you.
Right.
What is the story? So you're not going to lead with yourself unless yourself happens to be Angelina Jolie or Brad Pitt. You can bury that and talk about what the issues are first. Use the phone, call somebody, let them know what your voice sounds like. I always say for broadcast pitching, especially, that's so important, especially when you're pitching someone in radio or who has a podcast. Hearing the voice, they hear pitches, they hear teases. So if you can, with your own voice, make it sound appealing, that might push it over for you, right, Mark?
Absolutely. There's no question. If somebody I just called somebody and they were not overly responsive. First of all, they sent me the release. Okay. They sent me something. I responded by picking up the phone and calling them, and they were blasé about it. Well, why bother me?
You mean
Right?
when you called them back, it didn't
I
sound
called them back.
it didn't sound
called back.
as exciting as it did when they emailed it to you?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually make all of my team members here at Pitch rehearse and practice a pitch with me before they ever start pitching, pick up a phone or email. Because I always say, if you get caught on the phone with a journalist, you better sound like you know what you're talking about and that you're passionate about it. And just like you said, if it doesn't sound great when you're talking to them, why would you want to have that on your show?
And because I know you have a lot of pitch stars, and they change every 6 or 8 months or something like that, whenever they change. I will report back to you if somebody isn't up to snuff, up to the pitch.
Pitch star status. I appreciate that. We have a big internship program here at Pitch Publicity that Mark's referring to. So it's like a boot camp for pitching here at Pitch Publicity.
And the other thing that, if you're into PR, don't write a script, write notes. I've got this great doctor. He does this, she does that. Don't read me a script. You sound like a telemarketer.
How can you, when you're on the phone with someone, how can you tell that they're reading a script? What is it, like a red flag that this person's just reading a script?
Do you know how many scripts I have read as a voiceover guy? Okay. I can tell. And you try to, if you have to do it, you have to try to make it sound real. Make it your own.
All right. So walk us through this. Let's say somebody has a complicated pitch to pitch. It's very complicated. They have to write it down. How do you make it sound like you are not reading a pitch? You are the master voiceover king. I want to hear, what are your tips for making it? You have to read it, but how do you make it sound like you're not reading it?
Well, you make it your own. Let's say it's very technical and scientific. Okay. You write down the highlights, you know, taking this product, uh, taking this product cures cancer. And there have been studies at MIT and UCLA and Stanford to verify this. FDA doesn't believe it. All of that stuff is important. But if you talk it through like we're doing now, it's more real than being told, I have a product that cures cancer. It is really great. You should talk to the guy who invented it. It's just.
So you have to write it like you're having a regular conversation. So probably a good idea to practice it verbally before getting on the phone with someone, right? Because you're going to
Yes.
hear how it sounds. And the funny thing about writing and verbally pitching that I have found is that we don't write the way that we really speak.
Absolutely.
We speak much differently than the way we write. So when you're reading exactly how you write, it sounds too rigid and formal, doesn't it?
Often, unless you write for the ear, which is what I do. I wrote something, I don't have it here, it's behind me. When I originally wrote my book, Growing Old Sucks, which I think you have a copy of, I shared it with my daughter, who is a writer and a good writer. And she said, Dad, it sounds like you're talking. This isn't written. Yay. That's what I want in the book. And maybe there's another book in me. I'm thinking about 2 other ones. I want that to be a conversation between me and the reader, or in the case of pitching, between a publicist and the media. I think it's very, very important to make it a conversation.
Yeah, I always say, don't be a bot.
Yeah.
You have to really sound like yourself. And to know your own voice, you have to practice speaking a lot. And if that means practicing your pitch out loud before you get started, that's an important, easy step, I think, right?
Absolutely. And if you're doing something like here on Zoom, try to maintain eye contact. I mean, a lot of times you can do FaceTime on your Mac, on your iPhone. But eye contact is very important. This is really disconcerting when you're having a conversation, being interviewed. So, and being interviewed is very difficult.
Well, I will say this about you, Mark. Whoever I've ever introduced you to, whoever you've interviewed that's been a client of ours, you have such a magnetic personality. You've really good broadcasting skills, but you also have really good relationship skills. And it shows because Mark is on TikTok. He has thousands of followers, always looking at all his videos. You just magnetically draw people to you. And I think that has to do a lot with you sounding like you and not trying to be somebody else. You are you. And I think that that's an important takeaway today, I think, with your interview, is that when you're pitching, it's got to sound like you. So if your boss hands you a pitch, rewrite it, because it still has to sound like your voice.
It does. And, if one guy does a health show and you have a business angle and you're pitching both, have different pitches.
Well, before we wrap up today, I would love to know what's the best way for our Pitch Live community to connect and reach out to you and pitch? And what are the 3 ways that they should pitch you if they are going to pitch you? Can you give us that real quick? How do they reach you?
Yeah. Okay. The first way, you can email me, markalyn.com. I don't know if you're going to put up lower thirds or not.
We will.
Huh?
We will.
We will. And then the other is, after you send me a pitch, call me. and say, hey, Mark, I just sent you a pitch. I'm Amy. Love to talk to you about it. It's really great. That's all. I will call you back. And in that case, I'll say, hey, great pitch, or not exactly right. And when you send a pitch, make sure it's for that person. I do a health show. Okay. Don't send me a business app. And people do that.
Know your audience. And also, Mark lives in the LA area, so do not call him before 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah. Yeah, usually, because my brain and my mouth don't connect until about that.
Pay attention to those time zones when you're calling people.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Well, Mark, thank you so much.
The funniest thing is, one of your guys, Diego, called me at 3 a.m. I found it hysterical.
He was a butt dial. It was an accident, but it's got to make you feel good that you were first on his contact list to be butt dialed.
Yes.
I mean,
and he was having a lot of fun, I might add.
Yeah, watch your phones. Mark is listening. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you have elevated so many people in your career journey through your interviews and storytelling, and that you're going to continue to do so because you're never going to retire. We know that. And I want to encourage everyone here to share this episode so we can get more people connected to Mark and exposed to all the great content he is putting out there. And be sure to follow him on social media and join him for his live cooking show. It's on YouTube at Mark Alyn Cooks Your Dinner. It airs every Wednesday night at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And if you have a good health story pitch, follow him at latenighthealth.com. Get familiar with his radio shows, send him a pitch, and follow up with a phone call. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark,
so much
Amy. For joining us. And thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode of Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a rating or review. Your feedback helps us plan future episodes. I hope you were inspired today to get out there and pitch and advocate for yourself and make success happen. And as a bonus, join us at aneasyvox.com, where you can get motivated, hone your communication skills, and binge as much mentorship as you want whenever you need it. The link is going to be in the show notes, along with all of our social media handles and Mark. So let's get connected. And I look forward to supporting and following your success. So until next time, less MSH. Thank you, Mark.
Bye.